Coach Prime is going into year one with Colorado, man. They got an over under win total of 3.5. They're like a 19-point underdog against TCU. And it's just like, I can't see Deion winning only 3 games. Like, I can see Colorado realistically winning 6 games this year. Am I tripping?
Oh man, now I don't know Colorado's full schedule, but Dion is one of those guys that he's always underestimated when it comes to him. When he coached at Jackson State, they didn't know what type of success that he was going to get. They didn't know what type of success he was going to get at Jackson State. So looking at their schedule right now, which they have TCU, Nebraska, Colorado State, Oregon, USC, Arizona State, Stanford, UCLA, Oregon State, Arizona, Washington State, and Utah. So looking at that schedule and having them only win 6 games, I don't know about that. I think they could be. I think they could be. I don't know. See, TCU is going to be a tough one for me to pick, but I got a feeling they could upset TCU. They could beat Nebraska. They could beat Colorado State. Now, Oregon's going to be a tough one because Bo Nix is going to be. He's going to be good. He's going to be all right. He's going to be good for Oregon. That's going to be a tough one. I think that's where they get their first loss at. They get their first loss against Oregon. They get their second loss against USC. Caleb Williams is going to have a good game. I think this might be the game of the year right here. This might be the game of the year right here because I could really see, I think it's Deion Sanders' son that's the
Shadur.
quarterback for Colorado, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, Shadur.
Yes, him and Caleb Williams is going to have a show with this game. I'm telling you that. But I still have USC winning this game. Um, I could think they could beat Arizona State. Stanford might be one of those games where one of those trap games for Colorado, but I still think Colorado pulls it out. UCLA, I don't know about UCLA. They lost a lot of players through the draft and a lot through the transfer portal as well. Oregon State, I think they could be. I think they could be Arizona, and they might lose to Utah because Utah is one of those underrated teams that don't get talked about a lot. And when they do get talked about, um, now they want to put Utah on a bigger stature. This team always been good on a consistent basis every year for Utah. But I can only see them losing 3 games. I can only see really Colorado losing 3 games on this schedule. So I don't know about people saying they're going to only win 3 games. I don't know where you see that at, but the way they schedule looks, they could win absolutely more than 3 games.
Yeah, I guess a lot of the skepticism comes from the fact that, you had to overhaul this roster through the transfer portal. You're going to be bringing in a lot of different guys on the offensive line who do have experience. I do think they got pretty good size. That seems to be a misconception that people got about Colorado, that they're smaller up front. Like, their smallest offensive lineman, I believe, is only like 275, and I don't even think he's going to start this year. So it's like, I think that Colorado, the fact that they only won 1 game last season, and you bring in Coach Prime, you already know he's a polarizing figure. You either love Deion or you hate him. So of course there's going to be a lot of hate towards him. But I'm looking at Colorado this season. I think they potentially could win 7, 8 games this year. Now, as you said, I don't know if they'll beat a USC, if they can beat Utah, because Utah is a really physical team. And even though they're playing
Mm-hmm.
USC at home, it's just, is their defense going to be good enough? And even Oregon. But the reason why I think Colorado can exceed expectations this year is, for one, these players are going to be highly motivated. Deion had to come in and he had to change the culture. He had to
Mm-hmm.
get rid of the guys who didn't really fit his mentality. Deion wants dogs. He wants somebody who's going to be first one in, last guy out. He wants you to show up to the meetings 15 minutes early. You feel me? He wants you to handle yourself like you're a professional. And I think that that's going to translate to a lot of success on the field. And I also think that Shedeur Sanders, I think there's a misconception about him. There's people actually thinking that Shedeur Sanders is going to struggle in the Pac-12 against those defenses. Like, the Pac-12 doesn't play a lot of great defense.
That's what I was just about to say. Like, Pac-12 is like one of the worst conferences when it comes to defense. Like, what? How he's going to struggle with the Pac-12? Like that's media forcing the narrative. Like I said earlier,
I get. Well, it's not more so the media. I think it's more so like the people who just are detractors of Deion, who just want to see Deion fail. It's like, how does a guy go from dominating an FCS to struggling in the FBS? Like, we've seen plenty of players who have dominated in the FCS level, and then they transfer to a Power 5 school and they continue that success. And the prime example, I don't know if you know who this is, but the Washington State quarterback, Cameron Ward. He played for Incarnate World last year, and he was pretty good. And Washington State didn't really have that great of a supporting cast around them. So I'm looking at the receivers that Colorado brought in. They brought in 2 USF transfers. I'm a really big fan of Jimmy Horn Jr. He's going to be somebody who's going to be a monster for them in the return game. And I think he's also electric when you get the ball in his hands. And Alton McCaskill, their projected starting running back, his freshman year at Houston, last year he had a season-ending injury, but his freshman season before that, this man had 16 touchdowns, and he was averaging over 4 or 5 yards per carry. He's a monster. Like, I really like him. So I don't really see Deion not having a winning record year one. And I know some people may be like, oh, you're putting some unfair expectations on him, but I don't see how that's unfair. You're in a conference that doesn't really play great defense, and Deion Sanders is it's Deion Sanders. And I think people fail to realize that when Deion Sanders walks into a recruit's living room, or he reaches out to talk to somebody in the transfer portal to play for him, he doesn't have to sell somebody to play for him with money. It's Deion Sanders, bro. Like, come on. If you were a young recruit and
right,
Deion Sanders came in your living room, come on, this is a Hall of Famer, man. This is one of the most iconic football players ever. So it's kind of like,
facts.
For me, I feel like anything less than 6 wins kind of is a disappointment in my eyes. Honestly, and people can say, oh, you're being unrealistic. Like, of course, if they win 2 games, that's growth. You feel me? I'm not going to view this as a disappointment if they win more than what they did last season. But I'm just kind of expecting this team to be way better than what people are giving them credit for. Like, only 3.5 wins, that's their over-under win total. I don't know about you, but that seems like easy money to me. That seems like free money.
Yeah. That's free money. That is free money. Because at the end of the day, Deion know how to coach. And he brings in a coaching staff that coach these players up. And he coach them up to a point where he's going to get the best out of you. If you're not going to buy into what Deion is going to do, you're out of here. And that's exactly how it is. And he changed that culture so much. And I follow Deion on Instagram, and I see what he does with these players. I see what he does. So at the end of the day, people is underestimating Deion. That's going to put more fuel into this Colorado football program. It's going to put more fuel on him as a coach. And y'all going to be shocked that if they win at least 8-9 games, y'all going to be like, what? Because of what type of person and what type of coach Deion brings to a kid or to a college football player. Listen. That's people for you. That 3 games, I don't know what they smoking. I don't know.
Yeah, man, it's just, to me, when I hear Deion talk, like, he says, I came to win. Now, I don't know exactly what he means by I came to win, but I just know that means more than 3 games. Yeah. You feel me? Now, my only concern with Colorado is I don't know how great their defensive line is going to be. I talked to a couple of people. They feel way better about where the offensive line is compared to the defensive line. The defensive line is kind of a mystery. But another concern I kind of have is Travis Hunter playing both ways. Now, I know Adoree Jackson did the same thing, but when you play both ways, I don't think enough people understand how truly difficult that is. You're playing not just offense, but defense. So you're pretty much on the field for a good majority of the plays. So are you going to have the stamina to keep that up? I don't question Travis Hunter's talent. I just question the stamina and the endurance he's going to have. And plus, with you playing both sides, you
Yeah,
increase your risk of injury. So, like, I would feel a little bit more comfortable. It's like, yeah, you play Travis Hunter at wide receiver, but don't have him on there for all the entire offensive snaps and then have him playing all the defensive snaps. Like, you got to guess that they're going to have
I
somewhat of a
don't think that's
snap
going to
count on him.
happen though. That's the thing. I don't think that's going to happen because Deion Sanders is the type of coach where he's not going to let him play both sides of the ball. Especially the way the first couple of weeks of college football is going to be. It's going to be hot. It's going to be hell out there, especially on the West Coast. Playing in Colorado, then you got to go travel to these hot behind weather states, and you will try to have them play both sides of the ball. I think Deion is not that stupid to have that guy play both sides of the ball. I think he's going to be in rotation on defense, but when he start on both sides, nah, I don't see Deion doing that.
Well, according to reports, it seems like he is. Now, I think they probably will. I think he'll probably get more work at corner than he probably will at wide receiver. He's really good as a receiver too. It's just that I think Dion probably wants to use him more as a corner because you're already pretty deep at receiver. I don't know if you're as deep at corner as you are receiver. So it's like you don't really need Travis Hunter
Mhm.
to be involved in the offense as much as opposed to the defense. But it's like I just would prefer if he would spend a little bit more time playing one side of the ball than the other, just because it's so difficult to play both sides because of stamina. You can get tired really fast, and plus you increase your chances of injury. But what's your record prediction for Colorado this year?
My record prediction, I did say they was going to probably lose 3 games, but I mean that's just on the higher ceiling that I have them for. But realistically, I say my record prediction they'll win at least 8 games. I said 8 games this season, just to make an improvement. You I think you said 7 if I'm not mistaken. So I'm gonna just go just 1 game more. I think they can win 8 games with their schedule because I think Nebraska's an easy win. Nebraska's, I mean, they
I
used to
wouldn't
be
call
good.
Nebraska an
I don't know what
easy
they're going to be
win.
this year.
They do got Matt Rule. He's a really good coach. And they do got Jeff Sims, a quarterback who I love a lot. I don't know if you remember him from Georgia Tech, number 10.
I,
They could be a
yeah, I
challenge.
remember him and Matt Rule. Yeah, it could be a challenge, but Matt Rule, his first season as Nebraska's coach, leaving the Carolina Panthers and the reputation that he had coming from Carolina going into Nebraska. I mean, I don't know what his recruiting class looks like before it comes to Nebraska. So I mean, Matt Rule's gonna have to prove it to me that this team is legit because Nebraska's been on the downfall for the last couple of years now. So can Matt Rule really come in and change that program around? And that's gonna be two first-year head coaches going up against each other. What I say is going to be a dog walk. No, I think that's going to be a good game, but I think Colorado still comes out with the win.